Good evening, and welcome back to the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene discussion series. See, we've got a Frog Army in the chat with the raid. Good to see you, Frog and fam. Oh, it's just over there, but Juju Biju says hello, everyone. Jiraiya, welcome. Valerie, Key Ninja. Oh. Cheers, Kitty Ninja. Puffer P. Okay, so tonight we're gonna get into Law 10, which is interesting because this is the first law that has a subheading: infection. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. So I have no idea. I have not read. Yes, sometimes I'll read the chapter before the stream and I'll make mental notes. Tonight I was just like, don't even bother. You can just give a 100% candid reaction with the chat. So, gonna go ahead and give it the requisite few minutes. Let any stragglers uh, go ahead and find their way in here that are coming. And hopefully, this will be an interesting one, and hopefully, it won't be super, super short like the last couple have been. But what are you gonna do? When they short, they short. Speaking of short, like I've been thinking I might want to try to fit uh another maybe one, maybe two streams for the 48 laws in a week so that I'm not doing this for the next almost a year. But I don't know what day would be good for that. And I know not every time of every day is going to be good for everybody, but I was thinking like maybe doing one uh like earlier in the day and then doing like one for the week later in the evening time. What do y'all think about that? I mean, there's unlucky and then there's unlucky. But generally speaking, I mean, I've got pretty open schedule. I just was wondering if chat had any sort of input on that. But anyway, law 10 of 10, no, law 10 of 48. This is a different set of laws, sir. But anyway, what do you say? Let's get into this, shall we? Law 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Judgment. You can die from someone else's misery. Emotional states are as infectious as diseases. You may feel you are helping the drowning man, but you are only precipitating your own disaster. The unfortunate sometimes draw misfortune on themselves. They will also draw it on you. Associate with the happy and fortunate instead. You ever, anyone here know anybody like that? I've been that person before who dwells in the negative. I mean, I think everybody who knows me knows that I have I don't know, an issue with depression and maybe an issue with alcohol and the negativity. And yeah, being someone like that, I know how much that can suck out of somebody who's got a good mojo. Just unhappy, unlucky people don't have a positive energy around them. It's hard to give them one. So I got a really good feeling this is going to be something. Really, only two. You know what they are. Oh yes, but this is a different type of power for squabbles. This is of man. It only leads to unhappy. Covetousness leads to unhappiness and unluckiness. People aren't happy and fortunate all the time. Though. No, but there's a difference between people who got bad days and people who got bad attitudes. Bad days come and go. Everybody has them. But yeah, we should try to cheer people up, but don't drown with them trying to save them. Like sometimes you gotta just know when to cut your terrible toxic anchor loose and let it sink to the bottom of the sea so that it doesn't take you down with it. If you can't save that person and they won't save themselves, yeah, people who are always negative are social. We've had discussions before, Bijou, about people like this, unhappy and unlucky people specifically. Heidi, good to see you. Straggler number one present. You like the idea of candidly? Oh, the candid reactions, like me not reading it ahead of time and just winging it, and then doing it with the chat. Yeah, I think that's yeah. Psychic vampires, energy goblins. Yeah, they definitely do exist. That's a rounding confirmation from the rest of chat. Okay, where did I put that book? Transgression of the Law. Born in Limerick, Ireland in 18. Hold on one second. I gotta go ahead and start off just in case chat gets ahead of me so I know where I left off. Born in Limerick, Ireland in 1818, Marie Gilbert came to Paris in the 1840s to make her fortune as a dancer and performer. Taking the name Lola Montez, her mother was of distant Spanish descent. She claimed to be a flamenco dancer from Spain. By 1845, her career was languishing, and to survive, she became a courtesan, quickly one of the more successful in Paris. Anyone know what that word means? Um, I got a feeling I need to look up the word courtesan because it seems like it might be relevant to what's going on with this story. Courtesan, noun, mainly in historical context, a prostitute, especially one with wealthy or upper class clients. Good to know. Courtesan, guys, means prostitute. Only one man could salvage Lola's dancing career. Alexandre, this is a name right here. Jouarier, owner of the newspaper with the largest circulation in France. Also, the newspaper's drama critic. She decided to woo and conquer him. Investigating his habits, she discovered that he went riding every morning. An excellent horsewoman herself, she rode out one morning and accidentally, guys, ran into him. Soon they were riding together every day. A few weeks later, Lola moved into his apartment. So he moved the hooker in. Oh, think geisha. They don't always sleep with their clients, but usually do. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, if you're a high-end escort, like allegedly they don't always sleep with their clients, but they always sleep with their clients. Let's be realistic here. So she's doing the manipulation thing, and she got him sewed up real quickly. That was. Let's see where this goes. For a while, the two were happy together. With Dujardier's help, Lola began to revive her dancing career. Despite the risk to his social standing, Dujardin told friends he would marry her in the spring. Lola had never told him she had eloped at age 19 with an Englishman and was still legally married. Oof. Although Dujardin was deeply in love, his life started to slide downhill. He didn't got yeah, gold digger. I mean, obviously. But I mean, it's not like women were renowned in the 1800s for just like being strong and independent women. It took a lot of bitching before men created a society where they could actually be independent of themselves. Like we gotta maintain a lot of infrastructure for that though. Mm. So a man just starting to have a bad day. His fortunes in business changed and influential friends began to avoid him. One night, Dujardin was invited to a party attended by some of the wealthiest young men in Paris. Lola wanted to go too, but he would not allow it. They had their first quarrel, and Dujardin attended the party by himself. There, hopelessly drunk, he insulted an influential drama critic, Jean-Baptiste Rosemond de Beauvalin, perhaps because of something the critic had said about Lola. That's probably this guy sounds like a simp, dude. I mean, he's French. But he sounds like a simp. Oh yeah. By the way, I am on Rumble. I haven't figured out. Like, I got some things I want to talk about that because I have an idea. But I am on Rumble, so if you're not subscribed to my Rumble, like you go check out my Rumble and maybe give me a subscription. I'm gonna do probably more reading. I just think I might be doing like some devotionals and some scripture reading over on the Rumble side in the morning times. We will see. We will see. The following morning, Beauvalon challenged him to a duel. Oh boy, this is getting bad. Beauvalon was one of the best pistol shots in France. Dujardin tried to apologize, but the duel took place and he was shot and offline. Thus ended the life of one of the most promising young men of Paris society. Devastated, Lola left Paris. In 1846, Lola Montez found herself in Munich, that's in Germany, where she decided to woo and conquer King Ludwig of Bavaria. The best way to Ludwig, she discovered, was through his aide-de-camp, Count Otto von Rechberg, a man with a fondness for pretty girls. And let's be honest here, y'all. Who doesn't have a fondness for pretty girls, except for all the Sims do? I mean, but who doesn't? Like, the gays? Ah, she didn't go to Rome, though, so she should be safe. One day, when the Count was breakfasting at an outdoor cafe, Lola rode by on her horse, was accidentally thrown from the saddle, and landed at Rechberg's feet. The Count rushed to help her and was enchanted. He promised to introduce her to Ludwig. So this chick must have been pretty hot. And she had a horse, yeah. Step one, get a horse. Juju, horse chicks are crazy. Like, I don't know if anybody knows, like, the lore around equestrian girls, but horse girls are nutters. I don't, I don't approve. Rechberg arranged an audience with the king for Lola, but when she arrived in the anteroom she could hear the king saying he was too busy to meet a favor-seeking stranger. Lola pushed aside the sentries and entered his room anyway. Oh boy. In this process, the front of her dress somehow got torn, perhaps by her, perhaps by one of the sentries, and to the astonishment of all, most especially the king, her bare breasts were brazenly exposed. Lola was granted her audience with Ludwig. 55 hours later, she made her debut on the Bavarian stage. The reviews were terrible, but that did not stop Ludwig from arranging more performances. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another simp. Honestly, sounds like she made a deal with the devil or something. This, she might be a curse. So, she might be a curse. This this is fun. We got another issuance of step two. Remove your. I mean, I don't think you need step one if you. That's where you're going for. You just be horsing around here. Oh dear God, horsing. Oh, uh, and the. Okay, that's an interesting title. One of these little inserts. A nut found itself carried by a crow to the top of a tall campanile, and by falling into a crevice, it succeeded in escaping its dread fate. It then besought the wall to shelter it by appealing to it by the grace of God, and praising its height, and the beauty and the noble tone of us bells. Alas, it went on, as I have not been able to drop beneath the green branches of my old father, and to lie in the fallow earth covered by his fallen leaves, do you at least not abandon me. When I found myself in the beak of the cruel crow, I made a vow that if I escaped, I would end my life in a little hole. At these words, the wall, moved with compassion, was content to shelter the nut in the spot where it had fallen. Within a short time the nut burst open. Its roots reached in between the crevices of the stones and began to push them apart. Its shoots pressed up toward the sky. They soon rose above the building, and the twisted roots grew thicker. They began to thrust the walls apart and force the ancient stones from their old places. Then the wall, too late and in vain, bewailed the cause of its destruction, and in short time it fell in ruin. Leonardo da Vinci. That was the interesting little poem. Mm, cheers. Courtesan, yeah. I actually have Lola Montez by Volby in my head. And if you've never heard, there actually is a song by, they're a Danish rock band, and it is about this very Lola Montez. Cheers. Mousy, good to see you. Glad you could make it. This one is a interesting little chapter, the 10th law. Ludwig was, in his own words, we're back to the story of Lola Montez in case anyone was wondering now that that little insert is over. But it's funny that uh, the acorn begged the rock to keep it safe, and then it grew big and strong and destroyed the rock that defended it. So that's an interesting little concept my man Da Vinci is trying to convey here. I don't know why Mr. Greene decided to put that particular passage into this particular chapter, but if anyone has, we're just avoiding the unhappy and unlucky. But like I said, I don't think anyone here is unhappy or unlucky. Like by nature, I think we all have bad days, and Mousie's allowed to have whatever kind of day she's having. But it looks like Mousie's in a good mood. Oh, licking your wounds. What happened? Carrying on. Ludwig was, in his own words, bewitched by Lola. He started to appear in public with her on his arm, and then he bought and furnished an apartment for her on one of Munich's most fashionable boulevards. Although he had been known as a miser, that's a penny pincher, and was not given to flights of fancy, he started to shower Lola with gifts and to write poetry for her. Now his favored mistress, she catapulted to fame and fortune overnight. Lola began to lose her sense of proportion. She's getting a big head. One day when she was out riding, an elderly man rode ahead of her, a bit too slowly for her liking. Unable to pass him, she began to slash him with her riding crop. And oh man, what a bitch. Stop that. We don't do that around here. Think he's referencing the destructive nature of life. The rock sheltered the acorn, but by the very nature of the acorn destroyed the rock. So some people come into your life and destroy it. Yeah, even when you nurture them, even when you show them love and compassion, sometimes they will just destroy you. Courtesan sounds so fancy. Does not sound like hooker to me. So they're top secret historical hookers. I think back in the day, I don't think people were as vulgar as they are today. So I think maybe we should readopt some of the old ways and the old words. Because that does sound much prettier than prostitute or hooker or horror sing around. But yeah, this girl is getting a little bit too big for her britches. On another occasion, she took her dog, unleashed, out for a stroll. The dog attacked a passerby, but instead of helping the man get the dog away, she whipped him with the leash. Incidents like this infuriated the stolid citizens of Bavaria, but Ludwig stood by Lola and even had her naturalized as a Bavarian citizen. Oh boy. The king's entourage tried to wake him to the dangers of the affair, but those who criticized Lola were summarily fired. So this guy has gone full off the deep end in the simp land. Yeah, I mean, there's this correlation between creatures in nature that have bright colors and oozing levels of dangerous toxicity. We've seen it in like the poison arrow frogs, and now we see it in the modern feminist or liberal. I mean, it's usually women, but nowadays, what is even a woman? Yeah, he gets fired for criticizing the king's mistress. Yeah, nothing more dangerous than a simp with power. That's terribly like wars have been fought for for less. We got another insert here, y'all, and then we'll get back to the story again. In his own time, Simon Thomas was a great doctor. I remember that I happened to meet him one day at the home of a rich old consumptive. He told his patient when discussing ways to cure him that one means was to provide occasions for me to enjoy his company. He could then fix his eyes on the freshness of my countenance and his thoughts on the overflowing cheerfulness and vigor of my young manhood. This sounding gay. By filling all his senses with the flower of my youth, this is sounding gayer, his condition might improve. He forgot to add that mine might get worse. Yes, yes, yes. Montaigne, 1533 to 1592. Did that sound gay to y'all? That sounded pretty, sounded like some gay, but an old consumptive and my youthful flowery manhood, and nope, I don't agree. That's unlucky for you. Avoid that shit. Avoid that shit. Back to Lola Montez, shall we? And King Ludwig, who is fucking up big time. While Bavarians who had loved their king now outwardly disrespected him, Lola was made a countess, had a new palace built for herself, and began to dabble in politics, advising Ludwig on policy. No, no. With say it. Oh well. Regarding the insert, gay. But this right here, this no, you don't do this. You do not make your what did we call her, a courtesan? You don't make your courtesan a countess. You don't build her a palace, and you definitely don't let her advise you on policy. You are the king. That's a hooker. That's like going to the store for pants and be like, "Sir, this is a Wendy's." She was the most powerful force in the kingdom. It sounds like it. Her influence in the king's cabinet continued to grow. Probably not just in his cabinet, if you get my drift. Wink, wink. And she treated the other ministers with disdain. She sounds like a terrible, terrible, awful bitch. As a result, riots broke out through the realm. Once peaceful land was virtually in the grip of civil war, and students everywhere were chanting "Raus mit Lola." I don't speak Bavarian German, so oh, she didn't, yeah. Oh, she did. Oh, Chitlo, you gotta kind of. I mean, yeah, I mean. But did she really have ambition, or did she really just have mental manipulation on assent completely? And a horse. She did have a horse. She probably had several after her palace was built. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, ah, another insert. Many things are said to be infectious. Sleepiness can be infectious, and yawning as well. In large-scale strategy, when the enemy is agitated and shows an inclination to rush, do not mind in the least. Make a show of complete calmness, and the enemy will be taken by this and will become relaxed. You infect their spirit. You can infect them with a carefree, drunk, drunk-like spirit, with boredom or even weakness. A Book of Five Rings, Miyamoto Musashi, 17th century. So there's a lot of inserts in this one, more so than the last couple of chapters we've done. By February of 1848, Ludwig was finally unable to withstand the pressure. I guess, hold on, let's go ahead and pause. Let's go back to this little insert because I just got to thinking, like, everybody knows somebody like that too, who can just bring an infectious spirit. Like, some people say that I have that ability to just, I don't know, I have a calming presence, like on the microphone. I know know a couple of people who always just make me light up whenever they're around. It's like, oh, life's just better right now. And I mean, I get it. Like, if you're around someone who's just agitated all the time, that's going to infect you too, and you're just going to get agitated and irritated. Like, I know one or two people that all they ever do is seem to bitch and complain about everything, and it's like, well, there's not much you can do about all this shit you're bitching and complaining about. Musashi ended up committing ritual offlining because stomach cancer, if I remember. Terrible. But I mean, when you can't cure the stomach cancer, and I imagine that's extremely painful. So it's not like they had treatments for it in the 17th century like we have today in modern medicine, and it's still pretty awful. But yeah, infectious and like positivity and negativity can both be extremely infectious. Okay, back to Lola anyway. By February of 1848, Ludwig was finally unable to withstand the pressure. With great sadness, he ordered Lola to leave Bavaria immediately. She left, but not until she was paid off. For the next 5 weeks, the Bavarians' wrath was turned against their formerly beloved king. In March of that year, he was forced to abdicate. Oh, so he lost his whole kingdom because of this bitch. And it lost the bitch too, by the sound of it. So you literally gave her everything and ended up with absolute stone cold nothing. Let that be a lesson to you. Oh my goodness. Definitely. Definitely about the painful death of cancer, or definitely about don't ever let a woman ruin your whole kingdom. Lola Montez moved to England. More than anything, she needed respectability. And despite being married, she still not arranged a divorce from the Englishman she had wed years before. She set her sights on George Trafford Held, a promising young army officer who was the son of an influential barrister. Although he was 10 years younger than Lola and could have chosen a wife among the prettiest and wealthiest young girls of English society, Held fell under her spell. What the hell is up with these guys? Dear God. It's odd. It's odd she wasn't respected. I mean, uh, I don't think he's gonna do it. Like, come on, dude, you have options. Have standards, bro. You can do it. Oh my. They were married in 1849. Soon arrested on the charge of bigamy, she skipped bail and she and Held made their way to Spain. They quarreled horribly, and on one occasion Lola slashed him with a knife. Oh my, she's escalating. This bitch is getting worse and worse. She is escalating now so bad. Dear God. Slashed him with a knife? Jesus. Finally, she drove him away, but imagine the insufferable twat. Returning to England, he found he had lost his position in the army. Ostracized from English society, he moved to Portugal where he lived in poverty. This is what? She got one dude deaded. She got a king's whole kingdom destroyed. I mean, I guess she's not escalating. That sounds like that was worse than this. She ran this dude off, and now he's living in another country in poverty because he lost all his standing. I once knew a lad from Limerick. Was her name Lola Montez? Because Jesus. A few months later, his short life ended in a boating accident. Was he trying to lose his guns? He was trying to lose all his guns in a boating accident and went too far. If I had only read that next sentence, I would have realized that not only did he go live in poverty, he died. A few years later, the man who published Lola Montez's autobiography went bankrupt. Jesus. In 1853, Lola moved to California, where she met and married a man named Pat Hull. The relationship was as stormy as all the others, and she left Hull for another man. He took to drink and fell into a deep depression that lasted until he died 4 years later. Still a relatively young man. How many is that now? I mean, is that five? Are we gonna count the guy who wrote her autobiography? That are we gonna count the guy who went bankrupt? Because that's five men she's managed to destroy so far by my count. At the age of 41, Lola gave away her clothes and finery and turned to God. She toured America, lecturing on religious topics, dressed in white and wearing a halo-like white headgear. She died 2 years later in 1861. So she's finally done ruining people now. Uh, yeah, that's like, at least she found Jesus. Hopefully she found Jesus, but this get up, this white halo like, no, dude, you're not innocent. You take that off, you go put on a sackcloth and a habit. You need to repent. You need Jesus. I gotta get another insert. Regard no foolish man as cultured, though you may reckon a gifted man as wise, and esteem no ignorant abstainer a true aesthetic. Do not consort with fools, especially those who consider themselves wise, and do not be self-satisfied with your own ignorance. Let your intercourse be only with men of good repute. Let your intercourse be only with men of good repute. For it is by such association that men themselves attain to good repute. Do you not observe how sesame oil is mingled with roses or violets, and how, when it has been for some time in association with roses or violets, it ceases to be sesame oil and is called oil of roses or oil of violets? A Mirror for Princes, Kai Kos I don't know. They mess these things up. Ibn Iskandar. I don't. Yeah, that looks like there's a typo there. God was like, no, I ain't gonna end up like the other guys. She tried. Yeah, she tried to court Jesus, and Jesus was like, "Be gone with ye." Uh, interpretation. Lola Montez attracted men with her wiles, but her power over them went beyond the sexual. It was through the force of her character that she kept her lovers enthralled. Men were sucked into the maelstrom she churned up around her. They felt confused, upset, but the strength of emotion she stirred up made them feel more alive. That is the problem with these crazy, these toxic women. They the exciting ones. It's it's the nice regular girls that is boring. They don't have the power to do this destructive shit, but they have no interest in doing this destructive shit because they're not fucking crazy. And they do exist. There's at least two of them out there in the world. But yeah, this is absolutely wild. But I'm very familiar with this concept, so definitely always the crazy ones that are the most fun. As is often the case with infection, the problems would only arise over time. Lola's inherent insatiability would begin to get under her lover's skin. They would find themselves drawn into her problems, but their emotional attachment to her would make them want to help her. That's called simping. Although it sounded like she had probably had like the best pussy because they simping hard. This was the crucial point of the disease, for Lola Montez could not be helped. Her problems were too deep. Once the lover identified with them, he was lost. Oofed. Yeah, a vampiric relationship indeed. Yeah, I didn't get much out of it either, but sometimes it don't make no sense. Definition of a vampiric relationship: super high highs, but all the while your life is being bled from you. Absolutely. If I'd have known what direction this was going to go, Juju, I think I would have invited you on to do the show with me. Because this one seems like definitely one we both know we have experience in because we both shared shared some of this, so we can relate on this topic. So it would have been a perfect one to do with Biju. He would find himself embroiled in quarrels. The infection would spread to his family and friends, or in the case of Ludwig, to an entire nation. The only solution would be to cut her off or suffer an eventual collapse. And by eventual, they mean inevitable. hmm I actually have Discord shut off because it's hard to like get StreamYard not to lag like a bastard when Discord's on. So I would have to boot it up, and that would have to be if Biju wanted to come up in here and discuss the rest of this or give thoughts. But If you do, I can try to boot up Discord and shoot links. Oh, you have something in 15 minutes. Never mind then. We will just continue on. The infecting character type is not restricted to women. It has nothing to do with gender. It stems from an inward instability that radiates outward, drawing disaster upon itself, and there is almost a desire to destroy and unsettle. You could spend a lifetime studying the pathology of infecting characters, but don't waste your time. Just learn the lesson. When you suspect you are in the presence of an infector, don't argue, don't try to help, don't pass the person on to your friends, or you will become enmeshed. Flee the infector's presence or suffer the consequences. I love this line. Lila was a one woman epidemic. There needs to be an STD named in her honor. That clam trap that ruined a whole kingdom. Damn, poor Bavarians. Infector, yeah. I would start using it too. But yeah, this one, I've come across infectious people, but not all infectors are bad though. Some infectors can be positive. I think when we get to the point of the reversal, they might demonstrate that. But of course, this is transgression of the law. Yeah. But yeah, I love that last line. Flee the infector's presence or suffer the consequences. If Frog's still here, Frog can he can attest that he had an infector come across him before as well. I think we all run into someone like this at some point. I mean, by show of hands, has anyone here not run across somebody who was an infector? Because I know I have at least once. Maybe more than once, probably more than once. Okay, we got another insert. Yon Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. I do not know the man I should avoid so soon as that spare Cassius. Such men as he be never at heart's ease, whilst they behold a greater than themselves, and therefore are they very dangerous. Julius Caesar, William Shakespeare. So Caesar got some insecurities because he sees the hungry one. The, yeah, I can name a few as well. Keys to power. Those misfortunates among us who have been brought down by circumstances beyond their control deserve all the help and sympathy we can give them. This is the difference between people who are having a bad day or people who are going through some shit. Like, we all go through shit. We all have bad days. Like, we are going to be at some points unhappy and some points unlucky. And those people deserve all the help and sympathy we can give them. All of it. But there are others who are not born to misfortune or unhappiness, but who draw it upon themselves by their destructive actions and unsettling effect on others. This has been me. This has I have seen this and I have been this as well. I am not so proud of it. is kind of one of my biggest points of personal shame and weakness, but I have been here. It would be a great thing if we could raise them up, change their patterns, but more often than not, it is their patterns that end up getting inside and changing us. The reason is simple. Humans are extremely susceptible to the moods, emotions, and even the ways of thinking of those with whom they spend their time. Anybody ever find yourself spending a lot of time with someone and you pick up their mannerisms and you pick up their little quirks and their catchphrases and I mean, humans are very infectious. And especially if it's you're spending time with someone you enjoy. But if you have to spend time with someone who's miserable all the fucking time, that's also super draining, super draining. But yeah, being with someone who's positive is super refreshing and uplifting. The incurably unhappy and unstable have a particularly strong infecting power because their characters and emotions are so intense. They often present themselves as victims, making it difficult, at first, to see their miseries as self-inflicted. Before you realize the real nature of their problems, you have been infected by them. Oh my. Uh, oh my. This is hitting a little close to home. Understand this. In the game of power, the people you associate with are critical. The risk of associating with infectors is that you will waste valuable time and energy trying to free yourself. Through a kind of guilt by association, you will also suffer in the eyes of others. Never underestimate the dangers of infection. And that is true. True story. I developed alcoholism after having to watch over Willie, my brother-in-law, who was just a complete nightmare. Trying to help him probably shaved 5 years off of my life. Yep. I had a friend named Jimmy who was kind of a chronic drunk, and I spent a lot of time with him trying to see, because he seemed like he was miserable and needed a friend, and he dragged me down quite a bit. I know I've dragged other people down quite a bit myself because I kind of got a taste for the bottle, and my emotions can be this extremely intense infection. It's awful because I do feel like this chapter was written for me specifically. Oof. There are many kinds of infector to be aware of, but one of the most insidious is the sufferer from chronic dissatisfaction. Cassius, the Roman conspirator against Julius Caesar, had the discontent that comes from deep envy. Envy is a deadly sin. It's one of the seven. He simply could not endure the presence of anyone of greater talent, probably because Caesar sensed the man's interminable sourness. He passed him up for the position of first praetorship and gave the position to Brutus instead. Cassius brooded and brooded, his hatred for Caesar becoming pathological. Brutus himself, a devoted Republican, so not a Democrat, he's a devoted Republican. It can be said the same about someone who thinks someone else is miserable when in fact they are just fine. It can be said the same about someone who thinks someone else is miserable. I mean, some people just don't present as very damn cheerful. I know some people who just never seem to present ever as overly cheerful. They're just kind of like normal. They don't get really excited about much. It's kind of weird, actually. It's they're not very common, but I mean, that can be kind of off-putting to find somebody who just never gets excited about anything. Anyway, Brutus the Republican, MAGA, disliked Caesar's dictatorship. Had he had the patience to wait, he would have become the first man in Rome after Caesar's death, and could have undone the evil that the leader had wrought. But Cassius infected him with his own rancor, bending his ear daily with tales of Caesar's evil. He finally won Brutus over to the conspiracy. It was the beginning of a great tragedy. How many misfortunes could have been avoided had Brutus learned to fear the power of infection? So, anybody here know the story of Julius Caesar, right? Like, he was betrayed. He was also an iron fist dictator, but he got stabbed on the Senate floor by a lot of people. Brutus, one of them. There is only one solution to infection: quarantine. But by the time you recognize the problem, it is often too late. A Lola Montez overwhelms you with her forceful personality. Cassius intrigues you with his confiding nature and the depths of his feelings. How can you protect yourself against such insidious viruses? The answer lies in judging people on the effects they have on the world and not on the reasons they give problem im- for their problems, I guess. I don't know, it just kind of cuts off. Image, a virus, unseen, it leaves. Infectors can be recognized by the misfortune they draw on them. Enters your pores without selves, their turbulent past, their long line of broken relationship. Oh, I see. I got problems. I got different. There's typographical errors. I've put a sentence like uh, in the wrong spot here. Their unwarning, spreading silently and stable careers, and the very force of their character, which sweeps you up slowly before you are aware of and makes you lose your reason. Be forewarned by these signs of the infection. It is deep inside you. An infector. The infection is deep inside you. Learn to see the discontent in their eyes. Crazy eyes, y'all. I've been saying it. Eh, don't don't ever fall for the ones with the crazy eyes. And usually the crazy eyes is a strong indicator of a unstable female, but men's can have crazy eyes too. This is not unheard of. Most important of all, do not take pity. Do not enmesh yourself in trying to help. The infector will remain unchanged, but you will be unhinged. The other side of infection is equally valid and perhaps more readily understood. There are people who attract happiness to themselves by their good cheer, natural buoyancy, and intelligence. They are a source of pleasure, and you must associate with them to share in the prosperity they draw upon themselves. So this is the inverse. Like you want to be around the infectious people who bring everything up and don't bring everything down. This applies to more than good cheer and success. All positive qualities can infect us. Talleyrand had many strange and intimidating traits, but most agreed that he surpassed all Frenchmen in graciousness, aristocratic charm, and wit. Indeed, he came from one of the oldest noble families in the country, and despite his belief in democracy and the French Republic, he retained his courtly manners. His contemporary Napoleon was in many ways the opposite, a peasant from Corsica, taciturn and ungracious, even violent. There was no one Napoleon admired more than Talleyrand. He envied his minister's way with people, his wit, and his ability to charm women, and as best he could, he kept Talleyrand around him, hoping to soak up the culture he lacked. There is no doubt that Napoleon changed as his rule continued. Many of the rough edges were smoothed by his constant association with Talleyrand. See, so having these people around you, these wonderful, positive people, will bring you up, will add value, will help you exude that positive infectiousness. Having negative people around you will bring you down. Yeah, it will bite, and it's the suck. Ask anyone who's my friend, they should know that being around me can suck the energy out of you a fair percentage of the time. Some good advice indeed. Be around those who have the good infectious. Use the positive side of this emotional osmosis to advantage. If, for example, you are miserly by nature, you will never go beyond a certain limit. Only generous souls attain greatness. Associate with the generous, then, and they will infect you, opening up everything that is tight and restricted in you. If you are gloomy, gravitate to the cheerful. If you are prone to isolation, force yourself to befriend the gregarious. Never associate with those who share your defects. They will reinforce everything that holds you back. Only create associations with positive affinities. Make this a rule of life and you will benefit more than from all the therapy in the world. See, that's how you get out of having to pay a therapist, y'all. You just have happy friends. Yeah, that seems to be exactly the opposite of what they're uh, trying to say here is like try to avoid the negative and give return the positive with the positive, but I don't know. I don't know why anyone would need or would want to have like characteristically negative people around, even though there's a lot of people who like having me around, and I tend to be quite the pessimist most of the time. a cynical, a black pillar, if you will. Don't throw good energy after bad. I mean, that's a good rule of thumb to live by. Authority. Recognize the fortunate so that you may choose their company, and the unfortunate so that you may avoid them. Misfortune is usually the crime of folly, and among those who suffer from it, there is no malady more contagious. Never open your door to the least of misfortunes, for if you do, many others will follow in its train. Do not die of another's misery. Baltasar Gracian. My family and mostly coworkers. I mean, those forced associations are almost always the source of your negative ones, the ones you can't avoid. Yeah, when I was talking about somebody who is, I know who is just constantly negative, yeah, that would be my pops specifically. Like, uh, you can't spend 10 minutes with him without him raging about something that a politician or the government did, and it's like, yes, I understand it's stupid and it sucks and it's all bullshit, but you let it get you so worked up. And then like he'll be seething and he'll be like, I'm not worked up. It's like, yes, you are. And the fact that you can't even see it just goes to show how often you are worked up because it just feels normal to you. It's kind of nuts. I mean, I don't like the politics of the current world climate, but I try not to let it like get me too damn depressed because there's enough depressing shit to fucking bring you down. Reversal. This law admits of no reversal. Its application is universal. There is nothing to be gained by associating with those who infect you with their misery. There is only power and good fortune to be obtained by associating with the fortunate. Ignore this law at your peril. That's the reversal, y'all. There is no reversal. There are such good reasons to argue for someone over a large span of time before getting involved, uh, for really getting to know someone before getting involved with them. Cool Frog and his wife got lucky. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's lucky because I feel like a lot of relationships is it's just the work. I'm actually not surprised that there's no reversal to this. And do if you take away any of the laws that uh we've covered so far to this point, this one is extremely important because the type of people you have around you dictate a lot. Like they can have a significant effect on your mood, your psychology. Like I, you can't always have uh always positive infectors around, but do try to mitigate your interactions with your negative infectors and don't let them infect you. Like there's literally no gain from being infected with someone else's negativity. And yeah, some people do go through hardships and have bad luck and deserve all our sympathy and all the help we can give them. But those who are just constantly miserable, away from them you should be. So yeah, Law 10, y'all. Was that fun? Was that fun for anyone else? Because I had fun with that one. It was a lot shorter. It was another one of these short ones, but I'm all right with that. Let's see what we got coming up next. There is no reversal. Law 11 is learn to keep people dependent on you. Well, that's gonna be fun. So what do you think, chat? I met Lucky because they married after knowing each other for 5 days. She could have been a Lola. I mean, he could have been a Lola. Yeah, that was a. This was a fun chapter. Like this might be my favorite one so far. Law Ted for the win. Yeah, the Lola Montez story is crazy. But how many women, even in modern times, like there are Amber Heards out there who have literally ruined men with their miserable nature. Like, what was their name that killed the Beatles? Was it Yoko Ono? Kill the Beatles? I mean, Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain. The list goes on and on. Melinda Gates made Bill Gates less rich than he was. So that was a Fudwood. I might start next week a little earlier if I can. That way, in case it runs a little longer. Yeah, it's 100% a timeless lesson. And I think I might. I don't know. I kind of want to do start thinking of another day to do the laws of power instead of just Wednesdays. I could do it Wednesdays and Fridays kind of suck because everybody streams on Friday. I could probably do it on Saturday because almost nobody seems to stream on Saturday. It seems to be like a chilling time for the streamages. So if anybody listens to this in the replay gang, how about drop in the comments if you're listening on replay what day of the week it is and what time it is and your time zone so I know like where you're watching from. That'd be awesome. And I can get some idea of when people are around to actually catch these things, and then I'll know when to slot more of them in. But anywho, chat, thank you for joining me. It was a wonderful conversation. Kathleen Kennedy's killed Star Wars. Yes, that's a good note to go out on. And yeah, like the stream, subscribe if you haven't. Do this every Wednesday. Like I said, I kind of want to start a little early next week if I can, but we'll see what happens then. But yeah, anyway, yeah, turn on notifications to be apprised of if I do sneak one of these in this weekend on Saturday, and I will catch you next time, y'all. Until then, have a great one and peace.